Hey guys. Well. So Shawn Porter comes out on record, speaking about yet again his experience with Terence Bud Crawford, versus his experience versus against Errol the True Spence Jr. And there was always a narrative that, because he was 1 foot out the door, it diminished Crawford's win. And we already know that he's admitted that he was out the door with Errol Spence fight. But he literally clarifies that basically Terence Crawford got a way better version of Shawn Porter than Errol Spence Jr. I'll let you have a little listen. Stand by.
We visited that in the watch back, of course, but we gonna visit that, and I'm gonna go another way that I didn't go. And I'm gonna start this off by saying I love my father and I respect my father, and y'all know that.
Yeah.
But my dad did not pull any punches on fight night in that post fight interview that he gave in the ring, and I respect my father, so I kept my mouth shut. And I love my father, and I would never make my father look bad, so I never said anything. But when you look back at how this fight transpired with Errol, and then you look back at how my fight transpired with Terence, a lot of people are going to argue that I'm even better than Errol was when I fought Terence. And the reason why I'm going to go here now, and I'm doing it somberly because I'm not happy about having to do this the way that it's going to be done, but it is what it is. There wasn't a lack of preparation when I fought Terence. There was not a lack of commitment when I fought Terence. There wasn't a lack of confidence or anything when I fought Terence. And I've mentioned more than enough times, you already know that there's a documentary coming out on my career, my life, and you guys will see a lot of what I'm about to say right now and understand even more. But the things that took place in camp prior to my fight with Terence were things that had taken place before in camp, but I've always been respectful to my dad, and I've always kept my mouth shut. This was the first time that I said, I'm not about to do this. I'm not about to keep dogging it. And I'm 34 years old, and I'm still 33 years old, and I'm still dogging it like this because you are so amped up in a space that if we don't go here, we're not going to beat this guy. And so it became a thing of just, I'm not going to make any excuses. I wasn't drained on fight night by any means. But going into the ring on fight night, Terence had a confident corner. Terence had a corner that was ready to produce for him. I did not have a confident corner. And I did not have a complete corner that was ready to produce for me. Obviously, we know who I'm talking about when I say that. So what you see on TV is something that never happens on TV. An amazing moment. And they caught it. You down. What? You down. They saying you down. I'm down. Yeah, you down. Yes, he turned it up. But we watched the fight back.
Yeah.
Everything that he was doing to knock me down and that fight get stopped, he turned that up maybe 6 or 7 rounds. He started trying to pressure me. He started trying to get right in my face and not let me move, and let's make this fight happen. What you don't see is what's happening in the other corner. And my dad has never been a cheerleader. My dad has never said, oh, you're getting them. Oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. That's never been my dad. Never expected that from my dad. But what I didn't get from my dad, and what you guys need to understand is, yes, boxing is a one-on-one sport, but it's also a team sport, because when you go back to the corner, they give you information, they give you energy, they give you drive, they give you everything you need
Tell you what
to
you
go
don't
out
see
and produce. This is what y'all don't know. Everything that y'all seen me do against Terence Crawford on fight night was my game plan. All respect to my dad, but it was what I wanted to do, because it was what I thought I needed to do to beat Terence. And whether you could argue that I was winning that fight, and you could argue that I was losing that fight, but was damn sure better than what Errol was doing, what Errol was able to do. And I'll tell you why. You got to outthink that man. Mm-hmm. You can't allow that man to dictate the pace. You can't allow that man to dictate the space. You can't allow that man to dictate the range and the distance. And upwards to 6 to 7 rounds, I was very comfortable and confident with what I was doing. But when I started to waver mentally with, I don't know if this is working, I don't know if I'm winning, I feel good, I didn't go back to a corner who was giving me good information that was going to push me forward. I was coming back to the corner. You need to pressure him. You need to get on him. You need to get to the body. You need to do this. You need to, once you get him, you got to keep going. Combination turn, combination turn. That ain't how you beat this man. Yeah. You don't beat this man by rushing. Look at what Errol Spence did. Rushed in and got it. Yeah. Hard. I knew what I was doing, and I was outsmarting. And if not outsmarting, because I know you didn't have me winning that fight, if I wasn't outsmarting, I was competing.
Yeah, it was damn close.
Competitive.
But what you don't see, you see in one corner, you see, oh, you down. Oh, I got to turn it up some more. Yeah, you know you do. But what you don't see in the other corner was there was no energy being given to me to push me forward. So when I go out in the center of the ring, I'm relying on my thoughts. I'm relying on my emotions. And then I have a moment. Put me down. I ain't never been here before. All right, I get up, and now I'm a little shook up about the moment. And I'm in my own thoughts, and boom, comes the bigger moment. And you see frustration because why am I in my head? Why am I here? Mm-hmm. And then I get up and my dad stops the fight. No, it was not justifiable for my dad to stop the fight. No, I don't know what would have happened if that fight had continued. The narrative is that I wasn't committed, that I was already out the door and all those things. Oh, yeah, I was. But guess what? I was already out the door when I fought Errol. Yeah. I was out the door when I fought Errol. I was hyped up, and this is the last one. Did I not have an amazing intro when I fought Crawford? I was on my way out, and there's a couple more things I need to do before I get up out of here. But I did not receive what I needed in between rounds to help me through that fight, and that's why that fight, my fight with Terence.
So there we have it. We hear Shawn Porter talking about it was his game plan. He was out the door for Errol Spence fight. And Errol Spence still couldn't get him out of there and went the distance and only won by a split decision. But, you know, the narrative, and I'm glad that Shawn Porter, he always keeps it a buck and he's always so honest. He debunked that whole thing that the Errol fanatic fan base was going around stating that Bud just got a washed Shawn Porter. Now, granted, he said he was going to retire, but with Errol, he was out the door. And with Bud, the reason why he clashed with his dad, he knew what he needed to do himself to beat, or at least aim to beat, Terence Bud Crawford. He was fully confident, as you heard him say. It changed, obviously, in the fight, but he was fully confident. He just didn't want to do the things that his dad wanted him to do because he felt that that's where he and his dad differed on this fight, because he knew what he was dealing with. With Errol, it was an easier fight. As we can all see, with Terence Bud Crawford, it was a competitive fight until it wasn't. Then obviously admits that his dad and his corner failed him in the Crawford fight. Failed him in a way that there wasn't any upliftment, no pep talk, no spurring on. And that's what also failed him. He said Terence had a great corner because they captured it on, like we heard. You know, you're down, turn it up. He said felt him turning it up from round 6. The fight was over round 10. And his corner wasn't giving him that type of positive feedback when he was being successful in that fight. So it's nice to hear it just a year later, him absolutely telling the 150% truth. He wasn't trying to throw his dad under the bus, even though his dad threw him under the bus. I think now his dad probably will hear this and think, wow, I didn't understand that's what you needed to do, son. Not listen to me in its entirety, but listen to yourself. And I always say that boxers need to also listen to self. They're in the ring, yes, they're there to execute a game plan of what they've been taught in the gym. But it's if you're a good and an elite fighter, such as even Shawn Porter, you know what you need to do to adjust when something isn't going according to plan. Porter, which is quite weird because when I had, some correspondence with him via the report I showed you, he was quite irked that I'd stated that Bud is just a better fighter than a lot of them, but specifically than Errol Spence Jr. So it's quite strange that irked him. And yeah, so the narrative was left the builders in. Bye-bye narrative. I know that's now put to bed where everybody was like, Bud got the worst Shawn Porter. Well, as you can hear, he didn't. He absolutely got a better Shawn Porter than Errol, the truth, Spence. The truth was in the builders. It was an honest builders. It just makes me, I just wonder why Shawn Porter felt it important to come out with this and kind of reverse what he had stated last year after his defeat to Terence Bud Crawford. What was the catalyst to it? Was it that he respects Bud enough to, which I'd hope, debunk the narrative? He saw that Bud was such a great fighter, which he always knew, but was very hesitant to, didn't want to pick who would win out of Bud and Spence. Or was it a thing where it's now like kind of ride the coattails of the Terence Bud glory and be like he said, I did better than Spence. There's all different angles that this could be looked at, and why this was approached, we will never know unless Porter, comes out and further clarifies that, which I don't know. He's a truthful guy, but there's only so much truth that some people feel that they are allowed or would like to deliver. That I just wanted to put that from me to you, from you to me, to you guys. So that further more seals and cements and locks that narrative, stupid agenda to diminish Terence Crawford, his victories, his accolades, his accomplishments. So in a way, I need to shout out Shawn Porter for that one. Shawn Porter admits his corner failed him. He doesn't know what he would have done. And I was always an advocate like, well, his dad should have allowed him somewhat to go out on his shield. And it's funny because Kenny Porter, which always befuddled me, was going for Spence to defeat Crawford when he knew what Crawford did to his son. And he potentially stopped Porter, his son, looking like Errol. Errol Spence, you can look at it. Derek James failed him as a coach because he should have pulled him out of that fight at least 3 rounds before. Yeah. And he chose not to, but then he allowed him to go out on his shield, Spence. So you can look at it all different dynamics and different ways, there's different variables, but it was just interesting to hear this. So I brought it to you, as I do. Bars. Anyway, I'm gone. Hey girl, it's LadyChann rep nonetheless. Come back with CHANN. Gyan. Ra. The honesty was the builders in. The lies left the builders in. The truth entered the builders in. But the truth also left the builders in. Gyan.